everyone and welcome to today's lecture, which is about resilience. The objectives of my topic are: know the concept of resilience, identify the pathways to resilience, understand the models of resilience, know about the main concepts in resilience research, and identify the sources of resilience. Let us begin with the concept of resilience. Resilience is the key to a well-lived life. If you want to be happy, you need resilience. If you want to be successful, you need resilience. You need resilience because you can't have happiness, success, or anything else worth having without meeting hardship along the way. To master a skill, to build an enterprise, to pursue any worthy endeavor, simply to live a good life requires that we confront pain, hardship, and fear. What is the difference between those who are defeated by hardship and those who are sharpened by it? Between those who are broken by pain and those who are made wiser by it? To move through pain to wisdom, through fear to courage, through suffering to strength requires resilience. The benefits of struggling, of being challenged, afraid, pained, confused are so precious that if they could be bottled, people would pay dearly for them. But they can't be bottled. If you want the wisdom, the strength, the clarity, the courage that can come from struggle, the price is clear. You have to endure the struggle first. Resilience is distinct from mere survival and more than mere endurance. Resilience is often endurance with direction. Resilience is the magic bullet that everyone wants to acquire. Our teachers won't put it into the curriculum. Our legislators want it to transform the country. Our corporates want it for their staff to be the best they can be against all odds. Parents want their children to be resilient as much as they themselves want to be resilient against the challenges of 21st century parenting. Additionally, our insurers want us to be resilient against disasters and natural hazards of our environment. Like most concepts and constructs in psychology, there are a range of definitions and understandings of what constitutes resilience. Resilience comes from the Latin salire, meaning to spring up, and resilire, meaning to leap or spring back. Hence, the bounce back concept of resilience. Originally, the term was used in 1818 to describe the property of timber to withstand load without breaking. More recently, the term has been adopted by ecologists to describe settings like the family, community, and natural environments to withstand challenges or stress. Additionally, it has been moved into the individual and collectivist human domain rather than the original focus on environmental aspects. The individual aspect of resilience arose from trauma research, where there was an interest in an individual's capacity to rebound despite adversity. Resilience can be construed as a multifaceted, dynamic process wherein individuals engage in positive adaptation despite experiences of significant adversity or trauma. A summary of 73 definitions of resilience highlights that the majority of definitions focus on adaptation, whilst only few focus on growth. The construct might be captured best by Zotra and Reisch, who define resilience broadly as being the meaning, methods, and measures of fundamental characteristic of human adaptation. They postulate that resilience is recovery, sustainability, and growth from an individual or collectivist perspective, from a single biological system to a person, an organization, a neighborhood, a community, a city, a state, or even a nation. Three features of this definition relate to recovery, sustainability, and growth. They acknowledge that our attention to these three features of resilience is best seen through the dynamic lens of coping and adaptation. Indeed, in that sense, resilience is akin to coping. In the 1960s, Louis Murphy criticized the negative focus of research studying individual differences in children. Around 1970, some developmental psychologists focused their attention to the phenomenon of children who, despite being at risk for problems and psychopathology, succeeded in life. These pioneers inspired research on resilience in development in the following decades. Resilience has been an area of research focus for a long time. There has been a lot of interest in how the individual adapts to the environment, and many theories such as those of natural selection and psychoanalytic ego psychology focus on it. The concepts of ego, mastery, competence, and self-efficacy focused on positive aspects of adaptation. Resilience refers to humans' amazing ability to bounce back and even thrive in the face of serious life challenges. It generally refers to a phenomena which involves positive adaptation in adversity. Two main evaluations are required to identify individuals as resilient. Number one is individuals are doing okay or better than okay in terms of certain expectations for behavior. Number second is there have been circumstances that posed a major challenge. Maston, a key researcher in the field of resilience, notes that the study of resilience has turned on its head on many negative assumptions and deficit-focused models of human behavior. In fact, this challenge to negative and deficit approaches to the study of human endeavor has been gaining momentum over 3 decades or more. It is the positive approaches to human pursuit that the work of Seligman on positive psychology in 2011, Maddy on Hardiness in 2002, Mayer and Selloway on emotional intelligence in 1995, Lazarus in 1993, and Hofall in 1989 on coping, Dweck 2006-2015 on mindset, and Duckworth and Ekresis, Winkler 2015 on grit, each captured from a different perspective. Maston's thesis examines the ordinariness of resilience. For her, resilience derives from the human adaptation system through the process of development. What is promoted by the positive psychology movement and coping researchers is the capacity of humans to grow their adaptation capabilities through gaining insight into their experiences and participation in interventions that build the skills for resilience. As resilience has come into the lingua franca, it has acquired a range of meanings that are best captured by Maston. When she wrote that resilience referred to the class of phenomenon characterized by good outcomes in spite of serious threats to adaptation or development. Later, Schoon pointed out that central assumptions in resilience research are: number 1, a positive outcome despite adversity; number 2, continued positive or effective functioning in adverse circumstances; and number 3 is recovery after significant trauma. Maston refers to resilience as being an inferential and contextual construct that requires two major kinds of judgments. The first judgment focused on the threat or risk of the inference, and the second involves a criteria by which adaptation or developmental outcomes are assessed. This approach is consistent with the appraisal process in the coping literature, whilst evaluating outcome is a more feature of resilience research. For Maston, resilience doesn't come from rare or special qualities, but from everyday magic or ordinary normative human resources in the minds, brains, bodies of children, in their families and relationships, and in their communities. Unlike coping, which consists of thoughts, feelings, and actions, and has a long established history in measurement, the concept of resilience is not so readily quantifiable, particularly given there is a judgment implied about effective outcomes. Resilience is regarded as two-dimensional, the first being the exposure to adversity, and the second is the manifestation of successful adaptation. However, these dimensions are linked to normative judgments as to what constitutes desirable or positive outcomes. To conceptualize resilience as a trait rather than a state bears the danger of blaming the victim when things do not go well and ignoring the potential for growth. There are multiple bodies of literature that contribute to our understanding of resilience. The psychophilosophical orientations of positive psychology and the ecological framework of Bronfenbrenner under an understanding of resilience. These are complemented by the theories of coping that underscore much of this volume. Additionally, evidence-based approaches such as mindset, grit, emotional intelligence, and hardiness also contribute to an understanding of resilience. Each of these complementary theories focuses on success and achievement. When these approaches are underpinned by a positive psychological orientation, they combine to become a powerful tool for building resilience in different ways, in diverse contexts throughout the lifespan. Coming to positive psychology. Positive psychology is a philosophical and psychological theory that underpins this volume. It is about building strengths, capacity, and personal growth. Each of the constructs considered contribute in some way to resilience, as does coping theory in all its applications. For more than 60 years, psychology worked within the disease model and has succeeded in developing a scientific discipline with classifications, treatment plans, and interventions to make miserable people less miserable. This approach was recognized as being incomplete in the portrayals of humankind. Undeniably, that negative is a part of humankind, only a part, and what is viewed as negative in one group may be positive in another. For example, starting a new job can be exciting for a person or group but anxiety-provoking for another. Similarly, a child moving out of home can be a loss for some parents or a relief for those parents who wish to rediscover their own freedom. Towards the end of the 20th century, during his term as president of American Psychological Association, Matt and Seligman highlighted the cost of adopting a disease model of psychology. Psychiatrists and psychologists were viewed negatively as victimologists and pathologizers who failed to address the improvement of normal lives and the identification and nurturance of high talent. Rather than being guided by the thinking of what is wrong with our lives, Seligman encouraged people to refocus on the subject matter and to look at what is right in people's life. This question is at the heart of positive psychology and has led to widespread international interest in research and practice in mental and physical health and the capacity to learn skills to enhance well-being in individuals and communities. The four pillars of positive psychology have been described as virtue, meaning, resilience, and well-being. At an institutional level, it seeks to explore the roots of happy and compassionate individuals, strong social bonds, and altruistic behavior. In sum, it is the science or the study of a meaningful life. Whilst positive psychology is an orientation that originated from studies with adult populations, the tenets and the pillars have relevance and have been applied to children and adolescents in all settings. Achieving well-being and a capacity to cope with life situations has been the concern of philosophers since Aristotle, who is credited with saying that happiness depends upon ourselves. But to learn the art of human existence requires an understanding of the dynamic process that involves the interaction between one's circumstances, activities, and psychological resources for growth and ways of achieving a sense of meaning and satisfaction with life within one's cultural context. In order that both adults and children may flourish, four main components: goodness, generativity, growth, resilience are required. Whilst positive psychology has emphasized the experience of positive emotions, it does not imply that we are not interested in also identifying and labeling negative emotions. We learn to appreciate the good through negative experiences and losses. However, generally, it is through the positive emotional experiences that we broaden and build our personal resources for living the good life. As adults, we strive to build resources such as the physical, psychological, intellectual, and social. In sum, positive psychology is a philosophical orientation that underpins human endeavor. It focuses on what people can do rather than on what they cannot do. Now coming to socio-ecological model. Another theoretical orientation that underpins human endeavor is Bronfenbrenner's socio-ecological systematic approach, which posits that relationship between individuals and their environments is reciprocal in that individuals are influenced by their environments and in turn impact their environments. The microsystems such as family, school, workplace, and neighborhood bears a direct influence on the individual. This is complemented by the macrosystems, that is the socio-cultural, political context in which the individual is located. So both cultural, contextual influences along with the more direct family, peer, school, and workplace are important. It is the environment in which the individuals operate, taking an account of both proximal, for example school, workplace, and distal, for example economic and cultural factors. In 1980s, Bronfenbrenner emphasized that both ecological and development contexts are relevant. As with coping, there is an assumption that there is a bi-directional transaction between individuals and their environments, and in turn, there is interplay between context and development. Thus, when it comes to resilience and coping, both philosophical and socio-cultural influences are relevant to take into consideration. Now, we'll be dealing with hardiness. Historically, hardiness is an approach to achieving resilience. From an existential psychological perspective, life is a series of stresses starting with the birth trauma, moving through childhood and into adulthood. Mega trends such as globalization, threat to environment, rapid technological change all contribute to life as series of stresses. Whilst the capacity to survive in the face of stress varies according to individuals, there is also the potential to thrive. Maddie's model identifies the stressful circumstances that involve mental and physical strain, which for some lead to performance deficits, but for others it is about having a hardy attitude that involves commitment, being decisive, obtaining social support, and engaging in hardy health practices such as relaxation and exercise. All these are features of good coping. There is a capacity to measure hardiness and to see how hardiness contributes to resilience in diverse population. For example, it has been found that hardiness and optimistic attributional styles are predictors of mental health. Coming to grit. Grit is another useful construct in the resilience and successful achievement domain. Grit is defined as perseverance and passion for long-term goals. It encompasses stamina, passion or interest and effort. So more than being resilient in the face of adversity, it is about having a deep commitment and loyalty. Grit predicts success over and beyond talent. Therefore, it is a useful educational and training construct. The main concepts in resilience research are as follows. The first one is defining and assessing good developmental outcomes. Good outcomes can be defined on the basis of how successfully an individual meets age-related developmental tasks. Developmental tasks are the expectations of the society for the behavior of children at different ages and situations. One of the ongoing debates with respect to resilience is whether the criteria must involve good internal adaptation as well as good external adaptation. It is usually understood that external adaptation standards define resilience. Another debate relates to whether to expect resilient children to function just fine or better to excel. In studies of resilient children and youth, the following are assessed in terms of good outcomes: academic achievement, conduct, peer acceptance, and friendship, normative mental health, and involvement in age-appropriate activities. Most studies focus on multiple indicators of good functioning and not just one. Defining threats to good adaptation. Various threats to individual functioning and development have been identified: premature birth, divorce, maltreatment, poverty, homelessness, and traumatic experiences due to disasters. Initially, researchers focused on a single indicator to define risk, but later there was a shift to studying cumulative risk. There are two major forms of cumulative risk assessment: risk indices and stressful life experiences scores. Cumulative risk scores add the number of risk factors present in child's life. Life stress scores add up the number of negative life experiences during that time. Now coming to assessing assets, resources, and protective factors. Assets, resources, and protective factors have been studied in resilience research. Assets predict better outcomes for good adaptation. Resources refer to the human, social, and material capital that is used in adaptation. Protective factors are the qualities of persons or the situations that predict better outcomes under high-risk conditions. Resilience research has also been conducted on disadvantaged youth. Bunker and his colleagues in 2003 identified a resilient group and a non-resilient group of children. They found that resilient children had no clinically significant mental health symptoms and showed generally positive functioning. Resilient youth showed higher levels of intellectual competence and self-esteem. Resilience was found to be linked to the number of negative life events and to chronic life stress. Now, non-resilient children had suffered more negative life events. Self-regulation was also found to be the most powerful predictor of resilience. Coming to sources of resilience in adulthood and later life. Many factors which contribute to resilience in childhood also contribute to resilience in later life. Riff and her colleagues have provided a very extensive model of resilience and well-being. Research has shown that the following 6 dimensions are predictive of resilient responses in the face of adversity. First one is autonomy. It is degree of control over one's behavior, which is indicated by the internal locus of control that an individual possesses, that not only helps in regulating behavior but also results in experience of autonomy. Those who possess autonomy have ability to assess themselves based on the criteria set by them and not by others. The reliance on their beliefs gives them a higher degree of independence with less impact on self-perception based on the standards set by others. The high level of autonomy is marked by self-determination, independence, and ability to resist to social pressures which influence the thinking and actions of a person. They have the inner strength to regulate their behavior, while as those who possess low autonomy are concerned about the demands as well as evaluation by others, whose judgment influences their decision making and influences actions and thoughts. Personal growth. In order to be efficient, fully functioning and to attain the state of self-actualization, there is a need to develop as well as and expand the self, which is determined by the ability of personal growth. The growth of self is a progressive task based on different aspects of life and is a product of solving problems that helps in sharpening of talents and expansion of abilities. The personal growth leads to development, whereas depleted level is associated with deterioration. It is the dimension associated with eudaimonia. Those who have strong personal growth perceive themselves as developing and act towards growth through expansion of experience, which helps them in identification of potential and helps them to improve by recognizing their self and using their knowledge effectively to change in a better way. Those with weak personal growth have a feeling of stagnation and fail to work towards improvement and feel bored and disinterested in life and activities of growth. Environmental mastery. It means having control over the actual and imagined environment through physical or mental means. The higher degree of control reflects environmental mastery, while as lower level of control is expressed through inability to successfully control the environment. The interactions with environment and a variety of situations help a person to adapt to the demands. The diverse interactions lead to control over complex environment and life situations and the available opportunities. Those who possess high environmental mastery are competent in controlling complex array of external activities and are able to adjust and make environment work according to their needs and values. Those who score low have difficulty in maintaining everyday affairs, adapting to surroundings or use of opportunities, and experience low control over their environment. Purpose in life. It is the subjective perception of the significance of one's existence and includes both settings as well as reaching of goals, which leads to appreciation of life. It is one of the determinants of mental health and creates direction in life, which eradicates despondency. One with proper goal can only strive for success, and it also acts as an indicator of maturity. Those who have strong purpose in life are goal-directed and find their present and past meaningful due to the aims and objectives they have. They have a long, strong belief in the purposefulness of their life. Those having weak purpose feel that their life is meaningless because of absence of goal and find their past to be futile, and they carry this feeling to their present and future. The sense of lack of direction gives them an impression that life is meaningless. Self-acceptance. It is the most important component of resilience, mental health, as well as optimal functioning. When self-acceptance takes place in positive perspective, it creates positive attitude and leads to life satisfaction. Those who score on self-acceptance have positive attitude towards themselves that leads to acknowledgement as well as acceptance of reality in the form of both negative and positive aspects of life, leading to a satisfaction from previous life. Low self-acceptance leads to dissatisfaction from present and past life. The wish to be different than what really one is leads to disappointment as well as denial. Positive relations with others. The long-lasting and trustful relationship and the sense of belongingness is based on the development of positive relations with others. The adoption of a relaxed and a calm approach while interacting leads to the development of strong bond and exhibit a sense of maturity. The good relation result in understanding others and eases out life, while as poor relations result in frustration. Those who experience strong positive relations enjoy warm, satisfying relations and a sense of concern about the welfare of others. Their relationship is marked by empathy and affection and a profound understanding of the sense of human relationship. Those who share weak relations have difficulty in establishing and maintaining relations, due to which they establish a few close, trusting relations, because of which they remain isolated and frustrated and find it hard to compromise and sustain relations. This brings us to the end of the topic. Thanks for watching.